are boring. They don't have any enthusiasm. There is no noise and hence there is no character. There is no gearbox. There is no airband flow to it. There is nothing to enthuse the enthusiast. This is the Hyundai Ioniq 5N. This is the fastest N car from Hyundai. This is the car with which Hyundai hope to inject enthusiasm into the EV driving experience. This is also a car that their technical guru says it's an elephant that can dance. Can it dance? Well, on first impressions, boy, have Hyundai made something really special. This is an electric car that's actually fun. It actually puts a big smile on your face. This is hilarious. But before we go ahead with our test drive of the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, don't forget to hit that bell icon. Stay notified to all our video drops. And if you enjoy this video, if you like electric cars, give us a shout out and drop a comment below, because this channel is all about the thrill of driving, even when it comes to electric cars. So in this video, we're going to talk about the changes to the chassis, to the suspension, to the battery pack, to the way the Ioniq 5N rides and handles. But the very first thing that I want to point out is this N button out here. You punch it and it simulates an 8,000 RPM engine, and the pedals, normally in an electric car, the pedals are used to change the amount of regen. But here, when you switch it into the N mode, it actually works as gear shift pedals. This, I have to remind you, is an electric car. So you downshift, it shows you the gears you're in. First gear. I'm banging off the rev limiter. Now, this is all artificial simulated noises, and in fact, banging off the rev limiter, it sort of sounds like the speakers are cracking a bit. It is ridiculous, but it's also ridiculously addictive. I've been driving this for, I think now 3-4 hours, and almost all throughout, I've been driving it in this N mode. Maybe it is also the novelty factor associated with driving an electric car that actually makes all these noises, but it's hilarious. Imagine you're banging off the rev limiter in an electric car. Listen to this. And you can shift the gears. You can row through the gears. So first, second, and it sort of has this low burble, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and it's actually been done really well, because from sixth I can't go any further. It simulates an 8-speed DCT gearbox, and apparently the engineer who was responsible for that 8-speed DCT gearbox was also responsible for the simulations of this artificial simulation on the Ioniq 5N. Down the box. It's ridiculous. And you have a different sound also. So you press the left N button, and now traction and stability control is limited, so it lets you play around with the car. And now it has a deeper roar. It's awesome. And of course, you can switch all this off. So switch off this N button. You have the different drive mode. This is the sport mode, eco, normal. Then you have the N mode, which actually gives you the revs. So if you listen to that. Then you have the second mode, which simulates 8,000 revs. You can also simulate gear shifts using the paddles. Then you have your N grin mode, which gives you a boost in power. And of course, within that also you have your normal mode. This is a really powerful car, like ridiculously, stupidly fast. Just to give you a sense of perspective, the Ioniq 5N has got more power than the Ferrari Enzo. Of course, the Ferrari Enzo was like 2 decades ago, but this car has got more power than a Ferrari Enzo. Now just try and wrap your head around to that. Actually, before we talk about the changes that have been done to the chassis, to the suspension, let's stop and talk about the styling updates on the Ioniq 5N. The Ioniq 5 has always been a really interesting looking car, and with the Ioniq 5N, there are visual updates, obviously to make it look sportier. So the Hyundai badging, that's blacked out. You get this silver kind of finish with the orange stripe. You get gloss black. So you can't call this an air dam because this is obviously an electric car, but sort of a gloss black air dam with the red piping. You get vents on the bumper, that is for additional cooling that's required for the larger brakes. The wheels, these have been upsized to 21 inches. The color, this is unique to the N. This is that N blue. You get black, even down the gloss black with the orange piping again. More venting to cool the brakes. Obviously, there's no engine out there to cool it. You get a larger spoiler. And again, at the bottom, you have more gloss black. Overall, the styling has been enhanced. It has got that pseudo diffuser kind of effect out there and must be a flat floor. So probably it does have a little aero benefit as well. But the overall stance is sportier. Ioniq 5 now blacked out again. I think it looks really cool. The Ioniq 5, to my mind, was always beautifully designed. I especially like all the retro touches on it and the futuristic elements in the styling. This looks cooler, sportier, and of course the sound on the inside, man, that's the only thing I can talk about. As for the interior, now this is the regular Ioniq 5 interior, but all that grey has been replaced by black, and that does give it more of a sporty ambience. You get a new steering wheel with all these N buttons and that N grin mode, so that's a nice touch. And the steering wheel is actually wrapped in Alcantara, so it feels like a proper race car steering wheel. You don't get the panoramic sunroof. I don't know, maybe the Indian cars will be optioned with that panoramic sunroof if it ever comes to India. There is no word yet whether the Ioniq 5N is coming to India. The seats actually are different to the regular Ioniq 5. They've got more bolstering. They also look really nice, and there is a whole smattering of N badges all over the car. But the interior definitely looks a little bit more premium and upmarket compared to the regular Ioniq 5. And also this center console, that's also different. So there's less of that openness and airiness that the Ioniq 5 has, but it also is a nice update from the point of view of sportiness. And while we're at it, let me talk to you about the other changes to the Ioniq 5N. So obviously the battery pack has increased in size. This is now an 84 kilowatt hour battery pack. Your power, it goes up to 601 bhp. And if you hit this NGB button, that's the N grin mode. So NGB button, you punch that and you get overboost for 10 seconds, and that gives you 641 bhp. Obviously, to handle all that power, you've got beefed up front and rear axles. On the rear, you have a E limited slip differential and electronically controlled limited slip differential. Your suspension subframes, the front and rear subframes, have been beefed up. The steering ratio is quicker, and also the steering mounting points that have been beefed up. You also have 42 more welds, 2.1 meters more adhesive to give it better torsional rigidity, and 21-inch wheels. And all of that has been done to improve the torsional rigidity of this platform. And around these twisty roads, this definitely feels more engaging, more involving, more fun. Honestly, more fun. So we got a bit of open road out here, N mode, the louder mode. Listen to this. And the thing is, when it hits that artificial rev limiter, the nose actually dips. Like there is a break in the power, so the nose dips and then again it goes back. What fun! I don't know if I'm being childish or I'm just overawed by the novelty of driving an electric car that does all of this. But I'm having a ridiculously good time. And I'm a petrol head. I'm somebody who was, for the longest time, saying no EVs, no EVs. And I'm falling for all this drama. And of course, this is drama, no question. And it's all software, fiendishly complicated software, but it all works. And the rest of the updates that they've done to the way this drives, the way it puts down its power, it does add enthusiasm to the driving experience. Now, on the controls, you have this N mode, and out here there are a bunch of parameters that can be adjusted. So there's this N torque distribution. So you can adjust how much torque you want to the front or the rear axle. Obviously, why would you want more torque to the front axle? You obviously want more torque to the rear axle, and you can send up to 100% of the torque to the rear axle. You have the N pedal. Now this N pedal is sort of like one pedal driving, but when you go to a racetrack with that N pedal, you actually get a bit of oversteer. When you lift off and dive into the corners, you get a bit of oversteer on cornered entry. Again, ridiculously cool. You have the N race mode and you have the N Drift Optimiser. It lets you drift an electric car. You can switch off all the electronic aids. You're on your own and you can drift this. Now, we are on public roads in Seoul and they're not going to let us drift over here. So, here are some gratuitous drifting shots of the Ioniq 5N. You have the N mode, and within the N mode, you have N torque distribution, N pedal, that's a single pedal driving, N race, N drift optimizer. And we are actually at the border between South and North Korea, N Korea. So in N torque distribution mode, you can send maximum torque to the rear wheel. You can even move it to the front, though there's no reason why you would move it to the front. You can split it 50-50 and you can go all the way to the rear. That's N torque distribution. Then N pedal is the not only the single pedal driving mode, but also it gives you a little bit of oversteer as you brake into the corner. This is the N race mode and N drift optimizer, which lets you play around in the drift settings. It's so cool. This is really interesting. I'm stopped at a traffic light. Let me see if this has launch control. Okay, green, launch. Man. Of course, you can drive it in pure EV mode. You punch this N button again, goes into pure EV mode. You also have the sport mode. And then when you put your foot down, it's ridiculously fast. I go into the fast lane because this is a mad fast car. In fact, you press this NGB button, you get 641 bhp, so all the power on tap, and it's like a bloody rocket. On the motorway, that's where you can really experience that instant neck snapping torque, the turn off pace. Just step on it and it really is a rocket. No question about it. It's staggering how fast it is. Electric cars, you really need to take your time to get used to that turn off pace. And it is faster in pure EV mode. With all those 8,000 RPM drama that it does, it's not as quick. It's a fast car, but it's not as quick as when you stick it all in pure EV mode, press the grin mode, and it puts a big grin on your face, a big fat smile on your face. So should Hyundai bring the Ioniq 5N to India? Now, in terms of the price difference, in Korea, it's around 20% more expensive than the regular Ioniq 5. So in India, you're looking at probably 15-20 lakhs more than the Ioniq 5 that is right now sold. The Ioniq 5 is actually assembled in India. There's no way the Ioniq 5N will be assembled in India. It will come in as a full CBU. So you may be looking at maybe 25 lakhs more in terms of pricing. But I think this will actually make a fair bit of sense in India. Now let me tell you why. All this noise, all this drama, all this time pass that's going on right now, it is really cool. It does appeal to me. Maybe I'm a overgrown 8-year-old, but I think this will also appeal to all those early adopters who are buying electric cars. This just feeds into the whole tech frenzy that this car is. There's so much of stuff that you can adjust, you can play around with. And that N race mode, it's been done and optimized at the Nürburgring. N stands for Namyang and the Nürburgring. Namyang, where Hyundai's R&D is based, where these cars have been engineered, and the Nürburgring also where all these cars are tested. So they've done this so that the Ioniq 5N can do 2 full laps of the Nürburgring. They've made sure that the heat management, the thermal management has all been done so well that it can do 2 full laps of the Nürburgring Nordschleife, the entire North Loop. After that, 20 minutes to juice it up. Again, 2 full laps, and full laps at full hard power. Again, 20 minutes to recharge, and it can go on and on and on like that. So they've optimized it for performance. The thermal management has been done so that you can get 2 full laps and not just run out of power in half a lap or so. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to test it out over here. So here are more gratuitous shots of the Ioniq 5N on the Nordschleife. So have they been able to make this elephant dance? Albert Biermann, who came in from BMW M, who was the technical head of the entire Hyundai Motor Group, now he's a technical advisor to the group, he called it an elephant that can dance. And by my impressions of driving it here on the roads in Seoul, they've done an incredible job. The only other electric car that is fun to drive is the Taycan, and of course the RS e-tron GT. The Audi and the Taycan share the same platform. This is more a mainstream car than the Porsche and the Audi RS. And despite being a mainstream car, it is fun. It's actually the first mainstream electric car that I've driven that is properly involving. Electric cars are fast, no two ways about it. But exciting? This showcases that the future of electric cars doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be a mixer or a washing machine that takes you to work or takes you for Sunday drives. This is probably an electric car that you will wake up on a Sunday morning and go for a drive in. And how cool is that? Will you buy an Ioniq 5N slightly under a crore of rupees, maybe 90 lakhs in India? Let us know in the comments. You might have an aversion to all the fake noises, to the virtual gearbox, and I get that, but also you can switch all of that off and you can drive the Ioniq 5N like a regular electric car. A regular but very, very fast electric car. And then when you are in the mood for it, or it's a Sunday morning, you're waking up early in the morning for your Sunday morning drive, an electric car up until now will not get you out of bed early in the morning. But the Ioniq 5N could possibly be that electric car that enthuses the enthusiast. Up until now, we were moaning about how electric cars are going to be boring, and when we go all EV, which I guess is going to come, everything will be so boring for us enthusiasts. But cars like these showcase the way for the future, an engaging electric car. And this is genuinely engaging. Forget all that virtual fakery. Just the car itself, the way the software has been done, the way the mechanicals are, the way it handles, the way you can make the tail wag. It's got a drift mode, for crying out loud. All of this really makes it fun to drive. The era of fun electric cars could possibly be on us. All of us moaning about that all-electric boring future. Well, the Ioniq 5N showcases that it need not be boring. We enthusiasts have something to cheer about.